So today I'm going to be discussing ways that you can edit the material in Voces, create your own material to use within Voces, and how you can then take that unique content that you either edited or created and share it with other teachers, either your colleagues who are also using Voces or even just other teachers out there who are using Voces. So to begin, I'm just going to log into my teacher account. And I'm going to go into Nuestra Historia 1, but everything I'm showing you today, while I will be working mainly in Nuestra Historia 1, you can do in any of the titles. All the tools are the same. All the steps are the same. So I'm going to click there. And so the first thing I want to show you is just simply how you can add materials to a page, like add questions to a page. And to do that, and to really edit anything on a page ever, what you do is you go down to the bottom of the page. But let me actually I prepared some questions ahead of time. So here we have a short story. There are many short stories in our Nuestra Historia and Nuestra Historia titles. And let's say you're assigned this, you want to assign this to your students, but you want to add a question to this page. All you do is you go down to the bottom and where it says edit this page, you click it. And what happens when you click edit this page is that you're basically creating a new page that belongs only to you in your account that will essentially replace the Voces original page. It will have the same content as the original page unless you change it to begin. But first and foremost, you're like kind of creating something that's only yours in your account. So that's why it has the name of the page plus copy. And that's just one way to name it. You can name it whatever makes sense to you. I'll just name it new page 1, just for the heck of it. And then I'm going to click OK. So now this is my page, and you can see the content from the original page on the left here, and then these different sections on the right. And these sections relate to these sections on the left. So it says section 2 here. That's this section here. So if I want to, I could move that vocab section down just by dragging it, and it will reflect that, like that change will be reflected on the left. And in this case, though, I want to add a question. So to add a question, I'm going to click create a new section. And then I'm going to select a section type. So as you can see, there are many different types of activities and section types. But with this question, I'm going to add a question that relates to the story a bit, which is about someone who is, I just want to make sure everyone is muted because I can hear myself. So if you just join us, please, like mute yourself, but I just muted someone. So I'm going to add a question that relates to the story. So I'm going to select just a full width text entry, which when you select any type of activity, you will see an example here of what type of activity you're adding. So we can see that I'm adding like just a basic question and answer activity. I will add directions, but you don't really have to. And then I will click create section. And now we see that that section was added over here on the left, section 4. It always gets added at the bottom. I'm going to just push it up 1 so it comes right after that story. And now I'm going to click add edit questions and click create a new question. And I'm going to type, as just an example, how did you feel on your first day of school? And this is not going to be an auto-graded question, but if it was, like if there's a specific answer I was looking for, I could do that. And then I could type that answer right here. But in this case, it's not. It's an open-ended question. So I'll just leave it as it is and click add question. And so now we see it over there on the left. I'm going to click close. I'm going to save the page and close editor. And now we see that new activity in a sense. I mean, it's just a question, but it's a new, like now this page has an activity on it. And we see it right there on the page where I put it. If I wanted to, I could have dragged it up to the top or anything like that. So that's, and I will be doing like these steps, just so you know, multiple times. So I know there are a few steps involved in editing a page, but you'll be seeing it over and over again today. But I just wanted to show you, like, first and foremost, how to add a simple question. So along with adding a question, you can change material on a page. So I'm going to just jump to, I kind of planned this out, so I'm just going to jump around the curriculum a bit. I'm going to go to this story now. So this story is a story about, like, weather in Chile and weather in the United States. And Carly happens to live in Minnesota. Well, let's say I'm a teacher here in Michigan, and as much as I like this story, my students will like it, I want it to take place in Michigan, just to make it a bit more relevant to my students' lives. So to do that, all I do, again, is come down to the bottom, click edit this page. It's going to make a copy. This time I'm just going to, like, leave it as this automated, like, name plus copy. Click OK. So I see all the content from that page here on the left. It's unchanged at this point, but I want to change the details of the story to be Michigan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click add edit copy. And then I'm going to, well, just to go back a second, this is section 2 and this is section 2. So that's how I knew it was that section to edit. So I'm going to click that button and then click edit. So one thing to note is, okay, so first of all, I can just change anywhere it says Minnesota to Michigan. So I can say that. And now once I save it, the story will suddenly be about Carly, who lives in Michigan and not Minnesota. And my students won't, in theory, know that I changed it. The one thing, though, that I can't change so easily is the audio. This is the audio recording that we have with every story. But what you can do is you can replace that audio. So first, I'm just going to delete it. Oops. Let's make sure I can delete it. I can download it. I'm surprised I can't delete it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, since I can't delete it, and I apologize, is I'm just going to select this and copy it, and then do cancel, and then create a new copy block and paste that in. And I can quickly format that text. And now it doesn't have that audio. I'm just going to add block, and then I'm going to delete this block. So now we have the story. It takes place in Michigan. If I want to, I could edit this new block and enable recording. And now if I wanted to, I could record myself reading the story so that the students have a recording of the story as well, like of the new story, the edited version, as well as the ability to read it. You could also, instead of just reading it, you could do what you may do in a normal classroom where you're in front of your students and talking to them. You could read the story, but pause and ask questions about it, clarify some Spanish words, like translate it as you see the need. But yeah, your recording of your voice reading that story will be right there on the page. So I'm going to click save, close editor. And now we have that modified story with a new audio with it. One thing else I want to show while we're on this page is, well, actually, I'll save it and I'll close editor and we can just see the changes. So, there's the story. It takes place in Michigan. There's my audio. And everything else remains the same, like the students' experience of this page will remain the same. One thing to note, though, and I want to show you, is that throughout all of our titles, you'll see sections that have a yellow border. And if you didn't already know, those sections are specific, are only visible to in teacher accounts and not in student accounts. So if a student logged into this page, they wouldn't see that at all. Sometimes we have transcripts that are in the yellow box. And actually, I'll just show you in a specific example. Sometimes, like in our interview sections, we will have an interview and then a transcript below it. And if you wanted your students to see that transcript, again, all you do is go down to the bottom, click edit this page, create a copy, And now we find the section over on the left that has the transcript. We find that corresponding section on the right and click Edit Section. And then this time we just remove that teacher only restriction, and we just uncheck that box, click Save, save the page, close the editor. And now when we go back to that interview, that transcript does not have that yellow border, and therefore the students, when they log in and go to this page, they will see the transcript. So that's another useful way to use the editor. So basically, in many ways, the editor is giving you, the teacher, choice in how to present the information or what information to present to your students. And so therefore, there are many choices, and like there's like a lot of options in the whole of it. So, you know, bear with us as you kind of get used to the editor and all the many ways that it can like kind of customize your and your students' experience of Voces. And we can absolutely help you along the way. So, so next I wanted to, going back to the, let's see, to that story that I made and that I changed the setting to Michigan for. One thing I did want to add is that if you change a story in one of our CI specific, like CI focused titles, you would have to, of course, change the story on the activity pages and in the activity itself. It doesn't like automatically make the changes that you made to the story elsewhere. But in this case, just changing Minnesota to Michigan doesn't leave a lot for me to change. So I can just edit this activity page. I could, you know, update the story and then go into the activity here and click Add Edit Questions and find any questions that, you know, mention Minnesota and just simply change it to Michigan. And now that will make sense to the students. Okay, so then another thing we can do is adjust an activity with regards to the grading type. So if I go to this page here, this is an activity that is like that goes with the alternative version of this story. And it's, of course, a speaking activity where they listen to a question being, you know, asked of them, and then they record themselves responding to that question. Right now, it's point-based. And one reason why I know that is because it says 1 point per question there, and also because there's no rubric at the bottom here. If it was set to rubric graded, then there would be a rubric down here for the students to see, you know, reference before and during, and before and while they complete an activity. So let's say I want this to be rubric graded because it is an interpersonal speaking activity. All I do is before I assign it, so this is like before my students have access, I need to look at the activity and decide to do this and click Edit this page, just like before. Click OK for the new copy. And now, instead of working over here in the sections, like changing this activity itself, I want to click on the page details. So I'm going to click Edit Page Title. And this gives me a few different options, but one thing I'm going to change here is grading style. So right now it's set at points. I'm going to click on the drop down and select rubric. And so now I have a few different options. I can add my own rubric, as you probably already have. Many teachers have their own rubrics that they use for various types of activities. So you can put like the criteria there, and then the various like descriptors there. And you can just type them in one by one. And this is a lot of gibberish, but and so you could do that, and you can, if you want like to add additional criterion, I don't know if that's plural for criteria, you just click the plus sign here and it will add another one. Once you're done making your, like adding in your custom rubric, all you do is click Save Custom Rubric, or sorry, Save Custom Template, and it will prompt you to name it. So you can name it whatever makes sense to you. I'm just gonna call mine Sample Rubric 2 and click OK. And so then before I leave this section, I can either stick with my rubric that I just added and click Save Title Changes. But I want to show you something else in case you don't even want to make your own rubric, is that we have rubric templates already there for you. So I'm going to select a template or click that. And then we can see the two that Voces provides. There's an interpersonal speaking one and a presentational speaking or writing one. And then we see my sample rubric 2 that I just added just now, and it's gibberish. So I'm going to select the interpersonal speaking or writing. I'm going to click Apply Template, click OK. And now it automatically fills in the like the template area. And I click Save Title Changes and Save Page. And now when I close the editor, I'll see that this activity went from points to a rubric. And now when I assign that activity, my students will get to see the rubric when they come here to do the activity. And when I grade it, that will be how I grade. I'll select the various descriptors that my students' work reflects. So there's like a few options there, and hopefully I did that clear enough, but basically you can add your own rubric into our system and then save it so that you can use it on other pages in the future without having to type it in each time fresh. You can edit our rubric that we have, and you can make it kind of more your style. And you can just use our rubrics, and you can change any point graded activity, which is the majority of activities in Voces, to a rubric graded one, and vice versa. So if I come here I know that these activities are always going to be rubric activities in Nuestra Historia. So this is like how you would see it if you logged in right now as well. Now, if I just wanted to make this point graded, I would just click Edit This Page, click OK, Edit Page Title, and turn it to points, and then Save Title Changes. Save Page, close Editor. And now this activity is point graded, which means once they do it and when I grade it, I just give each like prompt or each number 1 point or no points. Let me make sure that I'm not missing any. I see there's a few chats. So yeah, Shannon, you asked if you make a rubric and save it, will it be available for anything that you edit and want to change? Yes, it will. So you could totally like add 4 of your favorite rubrics, and once if you added them in, you wouldn't have to add them in again. And each time you go to an activity and turn it to rubric graded, from that drop down of templates, you would see the ones that you had added before. So it makes it really easy. And yes, the template rubric can absolutely be modified, which is probably the easiest place to start if you don't have your own rubrics and you just want like a different style, or like, just slightly different language. And then Beverly, you asked, would you have students work with both the original and the alternative versions of the story? For Nuestra Historia Notre, the way, this is like a little bit off topic, but I'll just address it quickly, is the way the short stories are set up, the way we intended for these different versions of the story to be used is that the student would first read the original version, like this, and then doing the activities and stuff like that. And then in the alternative version, they would see, it would be like the same story, but with different forms of the verbs in many cases, because it would be told from a different perspective. And sometimes the story is told with like a new twist to it. So as an aside, but an important one, as a student of Spanish myself, I find the alternative versions to be wonderful, like confidence boosters, because if I have already struggled through sort of like understanding that original version and it's work at some level, and not 100% enjoyment, when I get to that alternative version, it's like I can take a deep breath and enjoy it because I understand it a little bit more easily. And at the same time, I'm seeing different forms of the verbs, and that whole, like the grammar is sinking in. So yeah, rubric grading and changing from rubric to points and stuff, it's all very easy, and you're able to do it in the edit this page section in the quick edit. Let me see. Okay, so some other cool features. I mean, there are a lot, but some of my favorites. One is that you can add a survey. And to add a survey, all you got to so you can add a survey to any page, to any activity. And a survey is basically going to collect your students' responses. And after, however many students have responded to that, you will see a breakdown in a little pie chart, and they will too, of how many students chose, choice A, how many chose choice B, and so on. And so that data that you kind of gather from their responses can be used in so many ways to in cool and great rich class discussion. And even if you're not teaching in a class right now, you could have you could do a survey with your students and then just ask them a question that they then answer looking at that data. So it's just, you can use it in many different ways. Let me just show you first how to add one, and then I'll show you some examples of ones that students have responded to. So to add a survey, I click edit this page just like before, and then click copy and create a new section, and I select a section type. And one reason why I like to show the survey tool is because it's not obvious. It's not a section type. It's actually a multiple choice activity that is turned into a survey. So you choose multiple choice. There are directions if you want, there's a spot to put directions if you want to. I'm not going to. But what you want to do, if you want to make it a survey and not just a standard multiple choice activity with a correct answer, is you click on this box next to where it says, make this section a survey, and you click create section. So now the section is over here on the left, section 3, and now I'm gonna click add edit questions, create a new question, and I'm gonna put, just as an example, do you like this story? And then I'll put yes, no, and I'll just leave it at that. If I wanted to put another option, I could just press this little, actually I will. I press this little plus sign and I'll put kinda. So we leave these X's here that they're just there from as remnants of how this used to be a multiple choice activity. But we have selected it's a survey, so there isn't a right answer. If it was a multiple choice activity, you would actually select the right answer like that. But again, it's not, there's no right answer. So it won't, our program won't pick up whatever you do here. And then once you put the options for them to choose from, you click add question, and now we see it over here. So now I'm gonna click close, click save page, click close editor, and we will see it right there on the page. And when a student responds, or when I, the teacher, I choose whatever answer relates to me, and then I click save and submit. And then instead of seeing whether I got it right or wrong, I see this pie chart. And if I hover over it, I can see that one person, me, said yes to this answer. But let me show you. I did a few as students with surveys that we already have in the program. So one is at the beginning of every unit, we, in level 1 and 2 of Nuestra Historia, we kind of have these slideshows that cover, that kind of introduce them to the 2 countries that are being focused on in that unit. And then after they learn about each country, they answer this question: where would they prefer to travel, Mexico or Guatemala? And they answer the question. And then as more students answer that question in their student accounts, we can see more and more responses, and the pie chart forms. So right now we have 2 students who have chosen Guatemala and 1 who has chosen Mexico. So we could, especially if you had 30 students responding, it would just be a little bit more interesting data. But you could, in theory, have a Zoom meeting like we're having and just talk to your students if you preferred Mexico, why did you prefer Mexico? And then they could maybe respond in simple Spanish if they're low level, but it's a pretty simple question. So that's an example of that. And then another place we have it, which is applicable to all of our titles, is in this try it out sample activities section that sort of introduces them to the different types of activities found in Voces. And so I had logged in earlier in this account and answered these 2 questions as students. So we can see that one student is not going to say whether they have ever eaten food after dropping it on the floor. another student hasn't, and 2 students have. And here, I forget exactly actually what this asks, but it's like, anyways, it's some funny question and then they have to choose. Um, and yes, so going to the chat, looking at questions here, someone asked, will I be showing the ESL books? Today I'm going to be showing you all the tools just using this title, Nuestra Historia, just because I sort of planned it here. But all of these tools, everything that I'm showing you, you can do exactly the same in ESL, including the surveys, editing pages, etc. And that applies to all the titles, as I think the next person who commented was mentioning. So thank you. So yeah, surveys are a great feature, kind of like just a cool tool. Oh, and so then I also wanted to show you how you can add a video to a page. And so I'll just jump to, oh, actually, I'm going to go to page 83. So this is an embedded reading. I mean, again, this is just an example, but this is an embedded reading on school in Guatemala. So let's say you are assigning this to your students, and especially for all of you guys, no matter what you're doing now, it is probably a struggle to like give the students enough context and, kind of direction for the assignments they're doing if you're not working with them in class like normal. So if you wanted to sort of like give them a more interesting experience of this reading by giving them a video, I found a video earlier. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, go down to the bottom, edit this page, make a copy of the page. And now, I can do anything. There's lots of sections on these pages just because there's lots of parts to them. But I want to just add a video at the top for my students to watch before they read this embedded reading. So I'm going to go down here and click create a new section, select the section type. I'm just adding a video, so it's just content. There's no questions or anything. I'm going to click content only. You can see it's just like an aside, but you can see you can make it teacher only if you want. You can give it like an outline, like the outlines that we have within Voces. It's just like a border that goes around that section. It's just up to you, but basically all you need to do is click create section. So it always puts it at the bottom. So I'm gonna drag it up to the top and we can see section 9 right here and it's empty. So I'm gonna click add, edit, copy, create a new copy block. And then just look for the little video icon, click on it, and you can paste any link from any of these video like programs or sites online. Mine is from YouTube. And so I can paste it there and insert video. And then it's right there embedded in the page. I like to, and this is just like an aside as well, I keep using that word, but I like to align the video just because it looks better on the page. So I just aligned it, like I centered it, and then click add block, close, save page, close editor. And now there's a video on that page for my students to watch. It's pretty seamless. And it will introduce them to, and that, like, it will give them a little bit more information about this topic. Similarly, you can add pictures to a page. So I'm just going to go to this interview video. And in this interview, this woman is talking about where she lives and stuff. So she lives in Monterrey, Mexico. So I'm going to, and let's say I just want my students to see, like, what does Monterrey, Mexico even look like? Give them a little bit of context. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, click edit this page, make a copy just like before. And just like before, I'm going to create a new section. It's just content. It's just a picture I'm adding. So I'm just going to click content only, click create section. It's always at the bottom. So I'm going to drag it to the top. And click add, edit, copy, create a new copy block. And then I don't think I copied it. So I'm copying the link address. I'll just show you right here. This is I just found this picture online and clicked open picture in new tab. And so that's the URL. As long as it has a .jpg, and there might be one other variation, then it will work. So then I just click picture and I can put it right there. You can also upload your own pictures here. So if you have visited Monterrey, Mexico, and you want to put your own pictures that you took there, you just have to upload the file and your students will be able to see. And then you insert image. I like to, again, you can kind of you'll get used to this as you do it, but I like to maybe set it at like 50% and then make it like align to center just because it looks more, designed in a sense. And then click add block, close, save page. And when I close the editor, I can see my students will see a picture of Monterey and then listen to Tanya talk about it. So can you add videos from other sections, resources, and Voces? So when you're trying to merge, like I guess you could add pictures from other sections and resources and Voces because the pictures all have like a URL that you can find. So if you go to like here's an illustration for a story, and you right click and you open image, a new tab, you'll have a picture just like I had this one. It's really the same thing. And then you could add that to any activity or any new page that you create. You just add like this whole string. And that would work to add picture or to like use pictures from elsewhere in Voces on different pages. And just FYI, I'm responding to a question in chat. But they're asking specifically about adding videos. The videos get more complicated because there isn't just a link. So although all of our videos are hosted on Vimeo, I feel like that might be a bit more complicated than I'm prepared to answer right now. Because I guess I don't think we just can get a link. Well, let me see, actually, just really quick, if you guys don't mind. Like I'll just go to, so, sorry. So I don't think you could just get a link of one of our videos and then use it elsewhere, but you could, like, you could edit that video page and like kind of combine two pages into one, but that takes a little bit of, might be a little difficult. So yeah, let me kind of think about that question. And if nothing else, Beverly, if you want to email me with the question and I can come up with like, kind of research it and tell you what the solution would be, you can email me at Erin, that's ERIN, at vocesdigital.com, which I'll put in the chat right now. And that's, anyone here can obviously email me. Yes, you can link to YouTube and a couple of others. So yeah, there's like a few, like Vimeo is one, YouTube, and some others that I'm not even very familiar with. They're all listed when you choose that video option. And so yeah, any videos that you find online, for the most part, can be linked into Voces. Okay, so a few other little like good things to know. One thing that can definitely help in this situation where you're teaching your students remotely and somewhat suddenly is that you can define any of the words in any activity or story or anything so that when they hover over the word, they can see the definition in English. So I'm going to click edit this page, make a copy, and I'm just going to jump into the story here. And let's just say, I'm going to click edit. Let's say that I'm pretty sure that my students, don't know, they should know probably all these words, but don't know this word. So I'm going to select it, and I'm selecting it and then doing Control-C, so I'm copying it. And then I'm going to click on text popover, like this little button. And when I click that, it disappears, like what I had selected disappears. And so then I enter the text to display. So I'm pasting that word back in here. And then I'm typing the translation of that word, and then insert popover. And now when I save this, close, save page, close editor, I can see on that page that it's dark blue. And when I hover my mouse over it, I see that translation. So it's just a way that we can, that you can support your students where they are, even if they're new to Voces and not all the material aligns with what they know. There was one thing else. So I guess just to kind of, before I go on to the next thing, I want to just sort of go over some of the options that you can use when you edit any page or create a page for that matter. So I'm just going to go to a new page and click edit this page. So again, you can move things around. You can edit a can do. So if you are using the can do's, which are like interactive can do's in Voces, where you click on them and then the students self-assess, if there's an activity that you want to add a can do to, that's one of the section types that you can add, can do statements right there. And you just select it, click create section, and then, I can use Voces. And then you select whatever type of can do that is, or whatever mode that is representing, if that makes sense, and add the can do. And then that will be right there and work just like our can do's. You can also come in here on an activity, in a specific activity. And if you don't use can do's and you feel like that's kind of distracting your students or making them, kind of confused, you can delete a can do so that it's just off that page. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then if you wanted to add a new section, again, if I click that and then look at the different section types, full width text entry, that's going to be what's already here with a question. Normally you would have a question that might take a word or two to answer or a sentence, but not much more. And then small text before question, that will look kind of like this, where they type in that box and then are asked the question. So sometimes that's putting things in order. Text with inline entry, that's sort of like a fill in the blank question. Paragraph with multiple inline entries is like a fill in the blank, but it's on the paragraph scale. So there's an example right there. I mean, obviously you guys can go through these yourself too, but I just want to make sure the multiple choice is a multiple choice. With multiple choice is pretty cool because if I add that section and click add edit questions, if you wanted to, you could give them a recording to listen to, of yourself saying something, and then add recordings for them to listen to and choose the correct one from. You just have to remember that whatever options you give them, that you mark the correct one correct, so that when they go in and select the correct one, it automatically grades it. And you can add pictures. There's a lot of different options within these little formatting areas for each section. Oh, you can't hear? Anna, try turning on your speakers, because I think everyone else can hear. Can everyone else hear? It says that yeah, okay. And someone said, can I add this to the library reading section? What library reading section? If you can explain more, I will answer, but I'm a little bit confused what you mean by the library reading section. So going back to section types, we just had long text entry. That's going to be something where it's more than just a sentence or a few words as a response. It's going to be a long, kind of almost like an essay. And it does get bigger the more they type. In the resources, no, you can't actually add anything to the resource section. That's kind of separate from the curriculum itself. Pre-formatted email, that's as it sounds. But it's cool. It's write an email. Like if you just want students to write an email in Spanish or French or English, click add section, and then you add a question. You don't even have to add a question in this case. Just click add question like that. And then they will see what we see over here on the left, which is like to, from, and subject. And actually it will be in Spanish if you're in the Spanish title, in English if you're in ESL, and in French if you're in French. So, and then going back, we have blogs, tweets, matching. If you wanted to add your own vocabulary list, anything that we've done, like if, you know, just like we add audio with our vocab, you can do yourself here. In fact, I think you can even upload audio files, which you can't do everywhere. Yeah, so if you wanted to upload an audio file or an image file, you can do that. So you can make, you know, like pages with unique vocabulary that just your students, you know, that you use and want your students to practice. And you can add that with pictures and your own audio. And then a slideshow. So someone asked at the beginning if we could add slideshows or like presentations, and you can. So I'm going to choose that and kind of just go over a few things with you on that aspect. So I'm going to click add section because there's really no directions that need to be put in there. And then I'm going to click add edit slides and click create a new slide. And so once you create a new slide, you can type in the material here. You can format it. So, I mean, just in our limited time, I don't want to go too far into the formatting, but you can experiment with and use all of these tools to make things bold, to change the font, to change the color. I didn't select it. So that's like background color and foreground color. And then if I wanted to like center it or increase the size, I can add a video to a slide. I can add a picture. It's really, the sky's the limit. And then you just click add slide, and then you can create another slide. And just do the same thing. Like the more you format it, the obviously better it will look. But, you know, unlike Google Slides or something like that, we don't have like a pre-formatted slide type or anything. So it's, you know, up to you to, you know, decide on the style that you want and then just kind of replicate it over and over again in each slide. And so, but again, you can add video, pictures, anything. And then if I save the page up here and close editor, my page, of course, is has a lot of kind of garbage on it now, but down here, the slide, you can see the slide is here, and then it just goes like next page, and there's like slide 2 and slide 3. And the students can see this, of course. You can do full screen if you're presenting it in class. So there's a lot you can do with the slides. No, you can't insert a PowerPoint. Well, if it's on YouTube, if it's like an actual video of a PowerPoint, you totally could insert a PowerPoint, like a video of a PowerPoint, but you can't upload the actual file. And just so you guys know, like Anna, this is being recorded, so we'll make this available on YouTube, and it will be on a page, which I'll get to at the end, but just to recap, you just select slideshow and create section, and then you just add edit slides. So all of our activity types really function in a similar way as the next. So like a lot of the same options are available for all of our different activity types. So again, it is a lot, like there's a lot of options. There's a lot of possibilities with the Voces editor, which is awesome, but can be a little bit confusing or overwhelming. But the more you do it, the more you play with it, the more comfortable you'll be. And you'll get, you know, you'll become aware of what all you can do with it just by building your own material and stuff like that. So now, speaking of building your own material, I want to get there because I've just been showing you how you can edit activities, but you can also add your own pages and really also like turn off existing pages or hide pages from students, etc. And to do all of that, so to do basically more like global changes or changes that affect the menu, what you do is you come up here into the teachers panel and then go to the Voces editor. And what you see when you open up the Voces editor is the table of contents, just like you would see in that little tornado icon. And so if you click on any of the units, it will expand to show you the different parts of that unit. I've been in here before, which is why those are open. And you can see, you know, the different parts. If you click on a part or a subsection, you can see the other subsections and so forth. So one thing to just, you know, show that you're probably seeing right away is that you can move things up and down. You can move sections out of the section. So if you wanted the Mexico and Guatemala, like this whole section to be outside of unit 1, you could click move out, and now we see it here. You can move it back in, you can move it up, you can place it wherever you want in the order of things, like in the table of contents. You can rename any section and click rename, and now it's just Mexico. You can really shape the content on this level, like on a table of contents level almost, however you want. But keep in mind that when you do things like that, it might get a little bit confusing because everything is sort of in order for a reason. So just, you know, move things lightly at first and make sure that you're aware of kind of where you're moving things and how that will affect your students' experience of the material. You can also, though, and perhaps most like more useful to more teachers, is that you can turn units, like you can make it so that students can't see sections, units, pages, etc. And so to do that, you just go to the units or whatever section you don't want your students to see, you click on it, and you find that button that says students see, and you click it, and it turns to teacher only. As you probably have noticed, we have sections and pages within Voces when you like that are already preset to be teacher only, things like assessments, quizzes, etc. But if you don't want your students to see like all the stories coming up in the future units, or if you don't want students to see specific subsections within a unit or chapter, you just go to that section and make it teacher only like that. So that's useful. What was the next thing? I would recommend not deleting. I mean, you can delete, but deleting is truly a deleting of that content. So anything you change to the menu itself here, you just want to make sure you save it at the top. I mean, it doesn't really let you leave without saving. And so next, what I want to show you is how to add or how to create your own page. So again, I showed you how to edit. I showed you how to sort of like customize the menu itself. And now I'm going to show you how to create your own page. So to do that, you just have to create a new group. You can create a new group within any section. So if I wanted to add a page to the short story section, I just come here and click new group, and I title it. I'll just put sample page. And so this is like the page, the title is going to appear in the table of contents, and my students will see it. And so like, you know, it's kind of like the title for that page. So now I'm going to click create, and it always adds it to the end of that section. So, and it always also adds it as a teacher only page. And that is so that if you're building a page, your students won't see it if it's not done, if it's not ready to be seen. But in this case, I'm going to remove that teacher only and just keep it student see. So now we have to create the actual page that will be attached to this section. So I'm going to click add page, and then it says create new page. So I'm going to click add. And it opens up what we are all now very familiar with, which is the activity creator. And all I have to do that's a little different than when you're doing that, like an edit of a page, is I have to name this page because it's not automatically done for me. I'm going to name it the same thing I named the section, just because that usually makes sense, but you can name it whatever you want. We can choose at this point whether it's going to be a standard activity page or content page, or a recording activity, or an embedded game. So those are the 3 types of pages we can create. First, I'm going to just show you the standard activity. So I'm going to leave it like that. We can also, of course, choose points or rubric, but you guys know about that, so I won't go into detail there. And then you click Create Page. And then it's just a page that is empty. And so it's just about building that content, which you have the same section types, the same activity types, all that stuff that we've just gone over that you can choose, you know, you can fill out and begin building the activity or content that you want to add to the curriculum. So, you know, you just go about doing however, like you just build whatever you want. And as you build it, it appears here on the left. And again, like all the same options apply. You can add a video, a recording, anything. And it's going to look, and I'll just do some gibberish, but it's going to look when you save it and you go to it within the curriculum itself, it's going to look just like something that we created, but it will just be something that you created. So it's pretty seamless in that sense. So I'm going to close Page Editor, and we see that my sample page is there in the menu, and it's linked to that page I just created. That's that little bottle cap type looking thing, or can top. I don't really know what those are called. And so that's how you add a page that's like just a regular activity type page or content. I'm going to do another sample just really quick, sample page 2. And so I'm adding, like creating a new group, clicking create. It goes at the bottom. I'm going to remove the teacher only. I'm going to click add page. I'm going to create a new page and click add. And I'm going to name it sample page 2. And this time I'm going to choose recording activity. And you know, I'll choose rubric just to kind of go through those steps, and I'll choose the interpersonal template, apply it, press OK, and now click create page. And now with these section types, as you can see, there's no like multiple choice or email template, et cetera. It's just content. If you want to add, you know, a picture, a video, or something like that, student recording, vocab list, can do, and slideshow. So I'm going to do student recording, directions here, create section, add, edit questions, create a new question. So you could ask a question here, and then the students would respond in like by speaking and recording their voice. You could record a question here and ask them, you know, so record yourself asking a question, and then they would listen to your question and respond in the with recording it. Respond and yeah, sorry. And then whatever you do, when you're done, you click Save Page and then Close Page Editor, and it's there for you. And now let me show you how to add an embedded game. So again, I'm just going to come up here to New Group. I'll call it Embedded Game. I'm going to select it so I can name it that, and then click Create. Add Page. Same exact steps as before, but now I just select Embedded Game and click Create Page. Create a new section, and out of these section types, I'm going to see some of the same as before, but then match game and flashcard challenge game. Those are the two types you can embed on a page. So I'm going to choose match game. You can, you know, add directions, whatever makes sense, and then click create section, add edit questions, and just like, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the games yet, but basically when you play a game just from the toolbar at the top, you have the same choices. But if you want to basically like pre-choose those choices for your students and put the game on a page that you can then grade and of course see whether students did or not, you know, then this is what you do. So right now I'm going to choose current chapter. So it's going to pull the vocab from the current chapter, not all previous chapters. I'm going to select the size of the game. I'll keep it at 9. I'm going to say no audio in case my students don't have a speaker on their computer, and then click add game. And so now the game will load here. I click close, I save page, I go out, I'm going to save that, save the menu, and now we'll see my 3 new pages. So I'm going to go out, and if you don't see them, you have to refresh, sorry. So I'm just refreshing, just like it's like if I logged out or logged back in. And then I go to that section and we see my sample page 2, and my embedded game. So my sample page is just an activity. Let's see if I got it right. Oh, no, I got it wrong. I got it right. And then my sample page 2 is the recording. So you could either put a question here or put the audio, and the students would record. I added that rubric. And then the game looks just like the games that your students would see up here in the game center, except it's specific to like what you chose in terms of size and the vocabulary, and you can grade it after they do it. So if I start the game, I will get vocabulary just from Unit 1 of Noise Restoria 1, and I just make matches. So, okay, I'm gonna look at chat really quick because I see there's quite a few questions. So if you ever, like Anna, when you're describing your situation, it's a little hard for me to help you right the second because maybe there were like some steps that were being overlooked, or maybe it was even at that point slightly different. So definitely reach out to me and I'll help you individually. And then the next question. Yeah, if someone is playing a game and it says not enough vocab content to play the game, then you probably were not, I mean, there's a possibility that they or you were not in a chapter. So it's basically, if they're just playing like this type of game from the top, like not an embedded game, they have to be in a chapter with vocabulary or else it won't have anything to pull. So sometimes like a very common problem is that they're just on, I changed my menu, so now it's, sorry, yeah. So if they're in the introductory section, there's no vocabulary and it won't work. So that's one way to kind of help them troubleshoot. So even if you had assigned a chapter, if they're, again, they may have been in our introductory section and just, even if you assign a page, they're just sitting there in a section without vocab. So just make sure that they're in a section with vocab, like a chapter or unit. The games appear, okay, so the games have to be embedded for you to be able to grade them. So they have to be like on their own page like I just did. And then the students do them and you'll see them in grading and results. And so it will just be like grading any other assignment. And then Jay Thomas, I'm kind of confused by your question, but so just to reiterate, the games can either be played just at any point by students in the game center, or you can embed a game. But to embed a game, you do have to, go into the editor and put that game in a unit with vocabulary, or a chapter with vocabulary, and set up the parameters, and then the students can do it there. And when they do it, it will report to you in grading and results for you to assign or for you to grade. So I hope that answered your guys' questions. I know some of this can get a little bit much. I mean, that's it's like it's sort of like we have all these options and all these wonderful opportunities to use Voces, but in all those, because there's so many, it kind of can be overwhelming. And so I definitely encourage you guys to just reach out to us as you decide which options you're going to try out. And if you run into any issues, just immediately, give us a call or email and we'll help you out, because, there's always a way to figure it out. Yeah, I'll put the webinar on that page. So someone's leaving, so I'm letting you know where this webinar will be. It will be on this COVID-19 response page under support and idea videos. We'll link to it there. It might take like a day, but it will be there soon. You're welcome. So, okay, so perhaps the best part of all of this is that after you have, kind of figured things out and made your edited page or custom page or embedded game or whatever it is that you created that wasn't there before, once you do that, you can share that page with other with other Voces users or subscribers. So whether that subscriber is a colleague or just someone like out there who's struggling right now to use this remotely with their students and needs ideas, you can share that page and they can really easily import that page into Voces. And you can even share pages that you've created or edited between titles. So if you have access to Nuestra Historia and you want to add it, and you edited a page there and you want to put that page in Novice, you can do that. So that's what I'm going to show next. So let's see. So let's say, I'm just trying to think what I've done here. Well, okay, so let's say I'm teaching this story as just an example. And because nothing is, because I can't go into school and be with my students face-to-face, I have to do a video lesson. We actually had a teacher, Brian Candle, make a video lesson recently. It's for a story in level 3, but you could do it in this level too, or in Novice or any other title, ESL as well. It's basically record yourself using Zoom or some program like we're using now, sharing your screen and explaining the material on the screen. So like doing a lesson virtually. And you record yourself giving that lesson, and then you have a video file, like an MP4, and then you upload that video to YouTube, which I know some of you may not have ever done, but it's not very hard. You can do it without any kind of special account in YouTube. So then you have a link to that video on YouTube. You can set it to private, so no one else is going to see it except anyone with that link. And then you come to Voces, to that page that you just explained in that video. So let's say it's the story, and you click edit this page and new section, content only, create section. I'm going to bring it up to the top. I'm going to add edit copy, and I'm going to add a link to that video that I just created. And in this case, as I mentioned, it's Brian, and it's about a story that's not here on this page. But let's pretend for a minute that it was me, the teacher, making this video for my students, reading this story that's on the page. So I'm going to add that block with that video, save page, close editor. And so now I have this video lesson for this page, for this story, and it's on the page, and my students can log in. I can assign it to them so they know where to go, and then they'll log in and come in here and watch the video of me reading the story, and then read the story themselves. And so let's say my lesson was amazing and I really want to share it with other teachers, or even if it wasn't amazing, because we always judge ourselves so harshly, let's just say it's something that's useful because it's a lesson, a video lesson of the story, and you're hoping that other teachers can find it useful. So to share it with other students, to share it with other teachers, what you do is you come up here into the teachers panel, you go back into the Voces editor, and this time you click Manage My Pages. And when we click on that, what you're going to see is any page you've edited in any way or created. So as you can see, I have a lot because I've been doing this webinar basically. So those are all the edited pages or created pages that I've made. The one that I just edited with the lesson is right here at the top. So I can go over here and click Share. It's a little like cloud. And when I click that icon, I get the share ID. And so I'm going to select it. I'm going to click Control C. And then I can give it to, I can share that share ID with anyone with Voces, and anyone, even if you have, Novice or a French title, doesn't matter. Not that you wouldn't probably want to add it to a French title, but you can share it with anyone Voces, and they can import that ID by clicking this icon. So yeah, so I'll get to that in 1 second. What I want to do is, sorry, okay, so I copied that, and I'm going to, I thought I had this open before, and I apologize. So I did make a, sorry. Okay. I did make a form, here it is, for you to share your IDs. And I'll put a link to this right now. And again, I'm sorry, I didn't have this ready. I'll put a link to this in our chat. And so as, you know, over the next week or so, oops, I sent it just to Anna privately. Hold on. Okay, oops, I just sent it to everyone. In the next week, if you can take some of the ideas that we've had here about editing and creating your own pages, and apply it to your own titles, you know, in ways that suit you and your students, of course. But if you come up with anything like a lesson for a story or just a cool activity that's like relevant to, you know, COVID-19, like maybe you have like a cool authentic resource that you found on COVID-19 and you put that link into a page and you add an activity and you want to share it with other teachers who are in a very similar situation as you, then go to your Voces, go to the Voces editor. I'm just going to go through the steps again. So then once you change that page or edit or add, you come back to the Voces editor, you go to manage my pages, you find that page title of the page that you edited or created, and you click share, and you take that share ID and you come here, and I just, you know, well, you go to the form, the link that I put in the chat, and you enter your share ID here, and you can, you know, you just kind of follow the prompts. And these are just that, like, be helpful in terms of organizing which titles the IDs might best go with and stuff like that. But I just encourage you to share your created pages because all of you are in a unique situation. I mean, we are too, of course. And I think anything that we can do to help each other right now would be a really great thing. So once you, oh, and if you do submit a share ID, I will make sure that you have access to anyone else's share IDs. So, you know, it's just like you give and you get sort of thing. And so once you get a share ID, and if you want to use it, you import it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to import it in a different title. So I'm going to jump into Novice. So let's pretend that I'm logged into a completely different account, or like, I mean, it doesn't matter really, but like, let's pretend I'm a different teacher and I'm going to use that lesson and story in my own title. So what I do is I log into my account, I go to the teachers panel, I click the Voces editor, and I go to manage my pages. And now I click import a page using share ID, and I paste that share ID that I just got from my colleague, for instance, and I click OK. And so it kind of explains what's happening. That page has been imported. When I press OK, I see it right there. And now that teacher, the other teacher's page is in my title, but it's not yet linked to a section. So the students can't see it. I can't assign it. It's just like kind of hanging in the background on this list. So what I can do is I can close Page Manager and I can decide where I want to add that page. And it might be the same place that the other teacher did, or if it's a different book, like here, it might be a completely different place, obviously. So I'm gonna click into chapter 1 and let's say I want to add it to activities just because. So I'm going to go to activities, click new group, and this is going to be like creating that spot to put that new page. I'm just going to call it new share ID page, but you know, you might want to call it something a little bit more interesting. And then you click create. That section appears again at the, like as a section at the bottom of all the other sections. And it's always teacher only, but I'm going to remove that. Then I'm going to click add page. Now, instead of clicking add here for the create new page, because I don't want to create a new page, I have a new page to add, I'm going to click on the drop down. And here is where you'll be able to see any pages that you're currently not using, any of the Voces original pages that aren't linked to any section that maybe you like replaced an edited page over, if that makes sense. And you're going to also see the new page, which is this one. So I'm going to select that new page that I just imported and click add. And now we see that there's a page added to that section. I'm going to click save, X out, and then refresh. And that's like another little, like, just something to keep in mind. If you do make a change and you're not seeing that change reflected in the title you're in, before worrying that you didn't do it right or something, just refresh the page, and that usually will solve your problem. So I'm going to go into chapter 1, into activities, and at the very bottom I see new share ID page. I click on it, and here is the lesson and all the same exact content from Nuestra that I just imported into this other title. And then like now I'm let's say a different teacher and I like what this other teacher did with this lesson, but I want to change something else. I can click edit this page and absolutely change any detail and just like normal that I want, and add any section, etc., and save page, and that will just be now it's like my page. So it can, the idea of sharing pages, sharing edited pages, sharing like custom pages is pretty powerful, and I think so relevant to the circumstances that are currently going on. Oh, I just realized. Okay, so I think we're pretty much done. I just realized I had something at noon, and so I'm just letting her know. Because if you didn't know, we actually are having a webinar with Cecile Lane tonight, and she's talking about strategies to develop independent reading in the language classroom. So that's who I was supposed to have a meeting with at noon, and I kind of forgot. But you should join us at 5 o'clock tonight. It's going to be good. So yeah, I'm just looking at questions. So a few things to remind you guys. The link to this video will be on this page. I highly recommend coming back to this page, quite often to see any updates with schedules, like for webinars, new training videos, etc. Anna, I will specifically email you a copy. And someone asked how you can see pages from other teachers. You do that once you share them with me through this form. So once you share an ID with me, I will give you access to any of the ones that we have. Or another way to see other pages from other teachers is just to ask other teachers. But right now, it's like you don't just automatically get access to them. So I encourage you to share yours, and then you'll see others. So I hope this was useful. Thank you for your patience and getting through all the, kind of nitty-gritty details of everything. There's a lot there. Don't be afraid, though. We can help you through it. And, if you just have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to call us or email, and we'll help you out. And yes, I'm using Zoom, and you're welcome. And yeah, it's a very adaptable program. And believe me, I've gone into a teacher accounts, and they are like, some teachers just have edited so much, and it doesn't even look like our content anymore, which is like an awesome thing. It's like exactly the content that they and their students need. And it's really miraculous what can happen. But it just takes a little bit of getting used to. So yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.